friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another this and that video. And if you're new, what this is a weekly vlog that I do where I cover several different topics, unlike my more separated topics in other videos. And this is more current and updated to the time that I'm shooting the video. Unlike my other videos that can be 3, 4, even 5 or 6 weeks out by the time you finally see it. So let's get busy on the topics of today, starting with the homemade baking powder. So today I'm going to be making my own baking powder for the first time, but it's super simple. You only really need 2 ingredients, especially if you're just making small amounts at a time. So the 2 ingredients are baking soda and cream of tartar. And the ratio is 1 part baking soda to 2 parts cream of tartar. So no matter how much you're going to make, it's always going to be that 1 part to 2 parts. So if you're just wanting to make up what you need at a time, typically most standard recipes, whether it be pancakes or biscuits or other kinds of quick breads, are going to take about a tablespoon of baking powder. So if you're only going to make up a tablespoon at a time, you just simply add 2 teaspoons of your cream of tartar and 1 teaspoon of your baking soda to your powder ingredients in your recipe. It's that simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up this pint-sized jar. This is what's going to stay on my counter. I think the pint size will be the perfect amount for me to be able to work through quickly. And a pint is 2 cups. So in order to get my proper ratio, what I have here is the 1 part of baking soda, which is 2/3 of a cup. So I'm going to pour that into a quart jar. I've got my funnel on there so I don't make as much of a mess. And then my 2 parts of the cream of tartar right here is 1 1/3 cup of cream of tartar. So remember, I'm trying to make 2 whole cups. If you're just wanting to make a cup at a time, that's a little easier. You just do 1/3 cup of your baking soda, 2/3 cup of your cream of tartar. I'm just going to put a lid on there and then shake it up really well. Now, if your baking soda is a little clumpy, you might want to put it in a bowl and then break it up with a fork first, or even take the blend and put it in a blender of some kind to make sure you break up all the lumps, and then it will blend it really well. This is the way I typically now like to mix powders. I've been doing it this way for like at least 4 years. So after I started my channel, and somebody gave me that suggestion, and I've been doing that ever since. So now that should be about 2 cups to fill this up. And pour that in there, and look at there, fills it up perfectly. So a very simple way to mix that. And now I've got my pint-sized jar. Whoops, this lid, because this is going to sit on my counter, so I like it to look nice. And it's all ready. So there is my baking powder right there. Now, if you're wanting to make up a much bigger batch and you're going to be putting it back in storage for a long period of time, it's recommended to add some kind of starch. I always say watch out for cornstarch because it can be difficult to find an organic non-GMO cornstarch, but there's so many better options like your arrowroot powder or your tapioca starch. And so the ratio there would be another part of the starch. And what that's going to do is that's going to help keep the baking soda from clumping in the container. However, I'm wondering if simply vacuum sealing it into jars would also help prevent that from happening anyway, that you wouldn't have to add the starch to it. Now, there's 2 main reasons why you should consider making your own baking powder. I mean, first of all, it's very simple anyway, but the main reasons are it can be difficult sometimes to find a baking powder that is aluminum free. Now, baking soda is always aluminum free, but for some reason, some companies will add aluminum to their baking powder. So that's one thing you definitely want to steer away from, because we're already overexposed to aluminum. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is aluminum, like many other elements, can be necessary, but we're already overexposed to it in so many ways in our air and so on. So trying to reduce that as much as possible is very important, because that's one of the things that causes Alzheimer's and other brain-related issues. So try to avoid aluminum as much as you can, whether it be the foil or baking and cooking in aluminum pans or using other types of aluminum cookware. The other reason why is that baking powder has a much shorter shelf life than the two ingredients, the baking soda and the cream of tartar, when they're stored separately. With the two ingredients combined together, is over time it'll just become inactive. It's not that it spoils per se or is bad for you, it's just inactive. It's just not going to work like it should. So it's better to keep it fresh. Now keep in mind, this is the first time I've made it. I have yet to bake with it. I actually plan on making some biscuits today as a trial with my homemade baking powder and see how well that works. And I'm also going to be baking those in my new stovetop oven that I recently got. Yesterday I did my second batch of bread in it. I'm excited about this oven. There is definitely a learning curve to it, and I'm working with it, at least as far as using it on a wood stove. The oven is made to use on any type of heat surface. So you could use it on an open fire, and you can also use it on a barbecuer. You can use it on their own winter well stainless steel camp stove that's made for using in a tent or freestanding outside if you want. I've mentioned that in a couple videos that you'll be seeing. We have one that we bought from a friend, but we're looking at getting the winter well one, which is the same brand as the oven. And we're also working on doing an affiliate with them, hoping that they will offer a discount code for our followers. We'll see. I think this is kind of a new thing for them. So the oven I did buy myself. I bought it so I could start working with it right away, because I've been trying to figure out some simple way to have an oven that will work and fit on top of my wood stove, because of the way our design is of our brickwork and the wood stove and how it sits in there. And this fits in there perfect. I can still have a pot of coffee on one side and my big pot of water that I always keep there, because I always like to have hot water on hand for washing the dishes with. I do that every day, wash the dishes with the hot water from the wood stove. I'll be shooting a more detailed video on that. I'll put the link to that oven. I suggest you wait until that more in-depth video comes out, because hopefully by then I might have a discount code to offer you. And then also you can learn a little bit more about the tricks, because I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to share the things that I don't like about it as well as the things I do like about it. Because anything when it comes to cooking, anytime you're trying some new source for cooking and baking, there's always a learning curve. Same applies to the propane run camp oven that I have. That's got its own little tricks that are actually similar to the stovetop oven. I enjoy trying different things like this and also having various different options, so I don't have to rely on propane if I already have a good roaring fire going in here in the wood stove, and I don't have to rely on my solar power in the middle of winter when we're not collecting much sun, and I don't have to rely on public power in case we have yet another of the many power outages we get every year. So let's move on. I want to talk a little bit more about the squash powder. This jar right here represents the spaghetti squash powder. So I still got some more to do up. I don't remember how many in there, maybe 3 big spaghetti squash in here. But from what I learned on the pumpkin powder, if you saw my last this and that video, the ratio, I was actually wrong on my ratio. It's actually about, once I get this filled up with the squash powder, I don't know if the spaghetti squash powder is going to be exactly the same, because I haven't been measuring it out. I've just been baking it, putting it on the trays and then dehydrating it up. But with the pumpkin powder, I actually ended up, once I topped off my jar, 18 cups of pumpkin into a 2-cup jar. So that means then that the actual ratio of the pumpkin powder to water is 1 part pumpkin powder to 8 parts water, to have it equal what it did before I dehydrated it. However, again, you can lower that water ratio to get the thickness and flavor that you want, and that's why I'm loving working with the powders. So I'm having fun with this and making more room and getting that squash taken care of and getting it all off of my counter in the other room. I also have a video that's going to be more in depth. I've already shot it. It's actually already uploaded, but it'll be a few weeks before it publishes. So it's going to be more detailed about the pumpkin powder, the squash powder, how to do it, and its many uses. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing, and I think I forgot to cover this in that video that's going to be coming out, and that is, it really doesn't matter what kind of pumpkin you use. Some people like to grow the really big pumpkins, but there seems to be this misconception that you can't use the big pumpkins for pies. Yes, you can. I've used the big pumpkin for pie before, so you don't have to grow pie pumpkins if you don't want to. I just prefer them because I get more pumpkins per plant, and they're easier to work with because they're smaller. And typically speaking, When you're talking pie pumpkins, you get more actual flesh inside the pumpkin with less space in there than you would the bigger pumpkins. Bigger pumpkins usually have a thinner amount of flesh in there and just a big open space for the seeds and stuff. You're just getting more per size of the actual pumpkin. Not more per pound, more per size. So if you got a pumpkin that's this big and you got a pumpkin that's this big, you might actually get the same amount of pulp out of the smaller pumpkin as you do the big one, and the smaller ones are taking up less room, and they're great for using for decor all around the house for the fall. And that's what I do with mine. I use it for decor until after Thanksgiving, and then I start processing them up. Okay, let's move on to a couple other topics. One is I actually still have carrots out in my carrot box, and I keep forgetting they're out there actually because I'm not used to harvesting so late. So what I'm going to be doing is just pulling a few at a time as I need them. And of course, here's one of those. We all get one of these at some time, and I love it when I see that. So I'm going to be using those in my next batch of kimchi since I just remembered they were out there and they're beautiful. So leaving your carrots out there until after at least the first frost is actually supposed to sweeten up the carrots. So talking about kimchi right here, I've got, this is the, you would have seen in the community post that I had started the red cabbage kimchi, and I'm finding that I think just last year was our first time trying red cabbage and making kimchi, and I fell in love with it. There's something about the flavor of the red cabbage adds that just adds more to it, and I'm crazy about it. Now it does turn everything in there burgundy, but at least it's a beautiful color. Unlike turmeric, I don't find turmeric leaving things a real lovely color, but it turns everything that color. And then this is the one I'm working through. It's all fermented, it's ready to go, and oh, so delicious. I don't use a brine when I'm making the kimchi. I did use Patrick's tamper. He did make me a smaller one. This one works good for wide mouth, and that's for more like for mashing fruit. But this one here he sells on the store, and I love this thing. I've been using it a lot. I've been using it for tamping down the flakes of the squash into my blender so I can blend it up easier. But also using this in the jar, I can really pack those vegetables in, especially since I don't use a brine. One thing about the brine is the brine helps break everything down and soften it, and then you can pack more into the jar. Well, I tend to like my vegetables, my kimchi, more crunchy than that. Not that it's not still good when it's soft, but I prefer it when it's really crunchy. So since I started going with this method that I actually came up with on my own, just by experimentation, by using a homemade fermentation starter and just enough salt for flavor is all, and no brine, and then 3 days later I've got a wonderful bubbly tasty kimchi, and boy, it's good. Oh yes, and I did put my homemade Chinese 5-color pepper powder in there. Boy, it's delicious, and this is nice and spicy. It's at least equivalent to a cayenne pepper, hotter than your jalapeno. And so it's perfect for me. It's that time of the year again where we're starting to buy the mandarin oranges or satsuma oranges. And now with Misfits Market, I'm finally able to get some on a regular basis that are organic. So whenever I have organic oranges, I always dehydrate the orange peels because there's so many uses for the orange peels, and you can powder them up. I tend to like to powder them up and then add them into various dishes for flavoring. I have all kinds of recipes out there. So instead of linking to all those different recipes in the description box down below to make it easier on me, what I'm going to do is link you back to the video I did, I think last year, on the uses for dehydrated orange peels. They have many uses, so I recommend dehydrating them up. And yes, I leave the pith on, especially when you're talking about these the mandarins or the satsumas when they have a thinner peel. There's not as much pith there. I never have an issue with bitterness. I just throw them on my wood stove dehydrator and let them dry. Then I put them in the jar, and once this jar gets filled, I'll go ahead and powder those up. I don't like to powder up just a little at a time. I like to wait until I have at least a pint jar full of them first. Okay, one more thing I want to talk about, because I'm sure I'm going to get some questions from those who've been following us for a while, at least long enough to know that we don't celebrate Christmas, and we haven't for years. And please know, we don't judge anyone on their choice to celebrate Christmas or not. That's all got to be your own personal choice and what you make out of it. And if you're interested in why we chose to eliminate Christmas, or at least the celebration of it, then I'll link you back to that old video we did a few years ago where we're sitting in the living room. It's kind of dark, grainy picture, but you know, sorry about that. It was old. We didn't have as good a lighting as we have now. But, you know, at least it'll give you an idea. But please understand, some people can get really bent out of shape. We don't look down on anyone and their choices, and we totally understand. Christmas can be a very beautiful, wonderful family time of the year, and we definitely support spending time with family. And we do spend time with family on Christmas Day. Why? Because it's a perfect day to do it. Everybody has the day off. We all have a time to get together. So our son and our daughter-in-law usually host a dinner at their house, and all the family from around the area comes over, and we just have a beautiful time. We enjoy celebrating the family time and just our relationship that we have with the Lord, which that should be something that we do all the time. Anyway, just so you understand, and also so you understand, just because we don't celebrate Christmas, we're not Jehovah's Witness, we're not Jewish, we're not Hebrew roots. It's just a personal choice. If you were to label us as anything, we probably, I don't like labels, whether they be political or religious, but you could equate us more to old-fashioned Baptists, because they actually didn't celebrate Christmas either. But just so you know, that's where we are. But again, we do appreciate the Merry Christmases and the wonderful cards people send. Thank you for that. It does not offend us. We're not silly like that. So anyway, that's why I'm bringing this up, because you might see these decorations. These are winter decorations, not Christmas decorations. Those I got rid of a long time ago, but I kept my winter decorations because just like I love decorating for fall, I love decorating for winter, and it's something I can keep up clear through February because it's winter at least through February. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about these snowflakes. So here's you can see this one here and this one here. It's just a few of the many I purchased, handmade, from an elderly lady that lives in our area. If I remember correctly, her daughter was helping her sell these, and she's kind of crippled up, couldn't really do much, but she enjoys making these beaded snowflakes. And just to support her and do some local business, and because I thought they were just beautiful, even if I could make them myself, I decided to buy a bunch from her. So I've got some hanging over there. I decided for the first time to hang some up here, but honestly, I'd forgotten about the winter decorations for a few years, so I haven't had them out in a long time. We've been cleaning out some corners of Patrick's shop and trying to get rid of stuff, and came across my box of winter decor. And then of course in there I also had my hand crocheted snowflakes that I made many years ago. They're a little bit misshapen now, but anyway, I made a bunch of these, so I'm hanging these, or I've been hanging those around too. And then the little snowman over there was a gift from one of my dance students a good number of years ago. I'm enjoying the beauty of the season, so I just wanted to explain in case anyone was curious and assumed these were supposed to be Christmas decor. Nope, they're not. They're just winter decor. Just enjoying the time of the year no matter what it is. So again, make the most of your holiday season, however you choose to recognize the day. If you're a Christian, we should be thanking God every day for his gift of salvation every single day. It shouldn't be only 2 times a year during Christmas and Easter. It should be every single day. And that's what really matters. And then taking every chance we get to spend with family. It doesn't matter what day of the year it is. God made every day. It should all be about making that time, no matter what day of the year it is, to enjoy and be thankful for your family. And if you're a Christian, to thank God for the many blessings in your life. And that's what truly matters. Well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. And I do hope you all enjoy your holiday season, whether it be you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever it is. Just have a good time. And thanks so much for following us for the past 5 years, or even if it's only been for the past couple weeks, and all the encouraging words so many of you are good at giving us, because that's what helps keep us doing what we're doing. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.